Hello everyone, welcome to the Bucket List Reviews. My name is Gibran and this is the review of the new Martin Scorsese film, Silence. The film takes place in 17th century Japan, where Christianity has been declared as faith punishable under the court of law, to torture and in many circumstances, death. Two Portuguese missionaries, played by Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver, are recently confronted by devastating news that their mentor, Father Ferrer, who under extreme torture has denounced Christianity in Japan and is now living among the Japanese as a Buddhist. In sheer disbelief, Garfield and Driver traveled to Japan in search of their mentor and in the process being confronted by the strength of their own faith. Okay, before we get into the philosophy of the film itself, I want to talk about the making of this project. Silence was a film project under development for around 25 years, serving as a lifelong passion for the master filmmaker, Martin Scorsese. After reading the novel by the same name, Scorsese quickly bought the movie rights and the initial screenplay was written as early as 1991. But due to various reasons, the project kept getting delayed until now. As some of you might be aware, Scorsese has always been fascinated with faith and belief, as Catholicism played a massive role in his upbringing in Little Italy, New York. But this is not an unknown territory for the veteran filmmaker. Films like Mean Streets, The Last Temptation of Christ, and Kundun have always used faith as a strong plot device for his characters' motivations. I think one of the main reasons why faith is so effective in filmmaking is because there are no clear answers. Can you truly believe in an omnipotent being who never answers during your deepest, darkest times? This is exactly what Silence the film explores. Silence, in my opinion, is arguably the most gorgeous looking Scorsese film that I've ever seen. Definitely in the league of Raging Bull or Casino. Rodrigo Prieto's cinematography captivates you right from the very first frame of the film. The smoky mountains, the contrast of the green vegetation against the blue and bleak atmosphere, the framing inside the cave peeking into the outside world. I cannot praise this film enough. The duo have worked in the past before with The Wolf of Wall Street, but without a shadow of a doubt, Silence is their best pairing to date. But how does the narrative of the film hold up? Well, that's where it kind of gets tricky. Silence is a very unusual film when it comes to structure. In fact, I would go on as far as to say it defies many of the unspoken rules of an American drama. The film constantly defies you the satisfaction of being a Hollywood tearjerker. There are so many dramatic set pieces that could have been exploited under, well, let's say someone like Spielberg, but Scorsese allows you to breathe in and let the moment soak inside you without the aid of a dramatic music or editing. Honestly, the long lingering shots of the decapitated Japanese Christian and his trail of blood brings you this uncomfortable feeling that you somehow really want to escape from. As I mentioned earlier, Silence is not your typical Hollywood drama. In fact, Scorsese has mostly relied a lot on European sensibilities of underplaying the urgency of the situation. For the most part, Garfield and Driver are stuck in Japanese villages, hiding from the authorities, but in many respects, the horror of the film stabs you right in the gut when you least expect it. So we talked about before how faith in films leaves you with questions, and Silence is no exception. The film excruciatingly explores the concept of God and how far are you willing to submit to His will. There are several times throughout the film where Garfield is forced to witness the disciples being tortured before his very eyes, but they all could be saved if he openly defiled the picture of the Virgin Mary. Is the word of God more powerful than any earthly suffering? Would God forgive you if you denounce His word in order to save innocent lives? What makes Silence such a brilliant film is that it never allows you easy answers. There is no black and white in the real world. Everyone is held accountable for their own actions. Even at certain times, you can somehow sympathize also with the Japanese authority, since they are protecting themselves from being completely colonized by different European nations and imposed ideology. History truly is a muddled subject which can never have clear answers. The performances from male protagonists, Garfield and Driver, are actually quite brilliant. Liam Neeson, although has limited screen time, could have been a bit more assertive in his performance, but I guess in a way, that's what his character is, a defeated, morally devoid being. But actually, Issei Ogata as the Inquisitor, on the other hand, was hands down one of the highlight performances of the film. In the few scenes that he was in, Ogata's character is so complex and well thought out that his performance is what makes it so unique. And although the final confrontation of the film is powerful and dramatic in its own right, the extended ending, I feel, could have been a bit better utilized. But as far as tone and atmosphere goes, Scorsese has painstakingly tried to create the experience of early years of Japanese forced isolation from the Western world. Whether or not if you're a man of faith, Silence will truly question you, and perhaps in your darkest moment, you will kind of reflect upon it. And that for me is a major accomplishment for any film. Silence is a film that resonates with me because of its anti-Hollywood structure. It defies your expectations of generating emotions for you. How horrific is seeing your disciples getting tortured right in front of you, and all you have to do is reject your faith to stop it. Silence genuinely reminded me of Robert Bresson's films, or even Carl Dreyer, where faith and strength is presented on screen, and it's up to you to decide how much you are willing to take in. But when it comes to rating this film, I'm kind of conflicted about it. Maybe it might change in the near future, but for now, Silence gets a 4.5 stars out of 5. And I'm genuinely surprised how this film has been ignored by critics and Academy Awards alike. It didn't even get the Best Picture nomination. For shame, Hollywood. Probably in some circumstances, Silence could be one of the top 5 Scorsese films ever made. And if you're generally familiar with Scorsese filmography, that's indeed high praise. So, that was the review of Scorsese's Silence. Which of his films you think is his best work? Raging Bull. Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, like, subscribe to the channel right here. And this is Gibran bringing you the films that you have to watch before you kick the bucket.